Hey, welcome back to Midas Letter Live. My guest in this segment is Ray Schiavone. He's the CEO and co-founder of Tahoe Hydroponics Company. Ray, welcome.
Thank you, James. Pleasure to be here.
Ray, you are in the process of being acquired by Golden Leaf Holdings in a transaction worth 52.4 million Canadian dollars. Is this correct?
Correct.
Awesome. Okay, so tell me about your operation.
So my partner and I, we've been in the cannabis space for a while. In Nevada, it's been about four years now. We distribute to basically almost all the stores in Nevada. There's, I think, approximately 60 stores right now in the state of Nevada. We're in the majority of all of them. We also have a facility in Sacramento, so we're expanding in California, and then another 60,000 square feet in Nevada as well. We'll have about 120,000 feet total between both markets.
Okay, great. And are you selling dried flower? Are you selling extracts or the whole 9 yards?
That's a good question. Just flower and joint pre-rolls for now.
Okay. Are you planning to add extracts to the mix?
Yeah. So, and that's part of the reason why we've joined forces with Golden Leaf. I mean, they're great at making tons of different products. They have chews, candies, chocolates, oils, a number of different products, plus retail stores. So it's a nice fit for both of us.
Uh-huh. And how much revenue do you do currently?
Somewhere close to about $1 million a month. Somewhere between 900 grand and $1 million.
Oh, okay. Average. And what's your average sale price?
That is a great question. It really depends on the type of flower or the strain, if you will. Somewhere, on the high side, 31, 32, and on the low side, if we have a ton of bulk, then somewhere closer to the mid 2,000 range.
I see. Okay, so what kind of gross margin would you say you're making there?
Yeah, it's pretty good. Between 40 and 60%.
Right. Okay, great. So are you guys planning to expand into other states as well? You're in California, Nevada now?
Correct. So we're in the process of expanding into California, which is where both of us are from, my partner Mark and I.
Oh, okay.
We have a facility in Sacramento, which is where I live, or used to live. And then so there's 30,000 feet there, and then we have another 60,000 feet in Sparks. So our current facility, which is in Carson City, is completely built out. We've outgrown that, so we're adding an additional 60,000 square feet in Sparks, which probably breaks ground, in a month or two.
Very cool. And so are you in a position where you're basically selling everything you can grow?
Yeah, I would say that. We're actually harvesting every 6 days now, so it's kind of hard to stay out in front of it because we're producing it so quickly. But it's pretty much, I would say within a couple of weeks it's gone.
Is that right, eh? So what's the state of, supply and demand in Nevada right now? Like, is it a case where there's more demand than supply, or vice versa?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, and it's changing rather quickly. So I would have said, maybe 5 months ago that the demand was so high that we couldn't produce enough. And now there's more and more producers coming online that, there's a little bit of a shift. More guys are trying to enter the market and sell it as cheap as they can just to create revenue. So it's a combination of, new guys bringing down the price, and then they have guys like us that have a high quality product that are commanding a higher price. So the state of Nevada just came out with their latest tax survey. So we're taxed on actually the dollar amount. So what that means is that they set the price to $2,800. So whatever the average price per pound is, then they aggregate 15% tax on that. So regardless if I sell for $2,400 or $3,000, we're taxed on a $2,800 pound. So I guess what I'm saying is that the state is saying that the average price per pound is $2,800 right now.
I see. And has that come down at all since the onset of regulations a year ago? Or no, it was just July, wasn't it?
Literally, yeah, this just came out and they just raised it to $2,800. So it was $2,200 6 months ago. So that, I guess the answer to your question is it's actually going up. but it sounds like the market is beginning to compress a little bit. So maybe in 6 months from now, it might go back down a little bit, but it's actually much higher than it was even last year.
Interesting.
So, yeah, it is interesting.
So would you say that the total tax burden to a retailer on top of what your cost is to produce it is 15%?
15% is our cost, and then there's an additional tax, but it's pretty much about the same.
So there's 15% tax on the grower, and then the retailer pays a percentage in tax of the retail price that he buys it for?
Correct. And, you know, there's also a 3% for the local authority, so we actually pay another 3% to Carson City as well.
I see. And what is the sales tax at the retail level?
That's a good question. I think it's around 10.
So 10, so 25, 20, so 28% is the total tax burden.
Yes, that's a nice number for the state.
Yeah. Okay. The reason I'm asking this is one of the issues that we're tracking here, Ray, is you know, the opportunities for unlicensed black market producers to compete with licensed producers is sort of very relative to the burden of tax that the consumer has to pay in addition, because a consumer will say at a certain level, oh, okay, if I'm only paying X% more, I'll buy it legally. But if I'm paying more than that, then I will continue to source from black market sources, all other things being equal. Now, in the state of Nevada, is it your experience that the illegitimate producers who are unable to get licensed are going to continue to be a serious part of the supply chain, regardless of the tax burden? Or do you think that most people are going to prefer to gravitate towards legitimate sources?
You know, I mean, these are great questions. I actually never really thought about it as far as Nevada goes. I mean, it's a huge topic as far as California is concerned. So in Nevada, there really isn't a black market. I mean, there might be a minor one. We do not see necessarily any competition in Nevada. I mean, all the tourists come in. Maybe some of the tourists might be getting something from a cab driver or like bellman or something like that. But it's not, I don't think it's necessarily affecting pricing at all. Not to mention, I mean, in Nevada, you have, you know, some of the most stringent testing in all of, you know, in all of cannabis. So at least those consumers are guaranteed that they're going to have the highest quality cannabis for what they're paying for. Now, I mean, if you're comparing it to California, there's a significant difference because there's so much product available and the prices are significantly less, that I do see how that could potentially come into play, because when you add in the taxes in California, which are fairly similar to Nevada, I mean, it almost would make more sense to go buy it, you know, from your buddy. Plus, it's everywhere. I mean, almost anybody in California has a friend that's probably grown cannabis or is currently growing it. Versus in Nevada, you know, it's regulated so well that it really, I mean, you can't have an outdoor grow. I mean, you know, most likely you're going to get caught in Nevada versus everybody's doing it in California.
I see.
So in California, in Nevada.
Right. So my understanding is that in California, the total tax burden to the consumer on top of what they used to be able to get it for from the black market is 40%. And alongside the very tough regulations and the testing side that just took effect July 1st this year, there's the sort of a convergence of this problem where the super high tax burden plus the fact that 80% of the growers going into the testing regime can't actually get through to the other side because they're not growing, they're not following the rules. And so all the dispensaries, I follow them, I go there regularly. I've noticed that dispensaries are down to like 20% of the range of supply that they used to have. And a lot of the patients who are sourcing medical cannabis for very specific medical reasons are finding themselves forced to go back to the black market because there's nothing available in the dispensary anymore, even at a 40% premium. So that problem for California is one where I say, okay, so supply is constrained by the fact that everybody's apparently been growing weed there forever using pesticides or whatever. And also, you know, the tax burden makes it very attractive to black market producers to continue to supply, especially when legitimate sources can't get through that testing regime.
Right. I mean, yeah, so they're getting hit. I mean, the consumers are getting hit on two fronts. I mean, one, there's the demand issue, obviously, for retail, for legal cannabis. And then two, the guys that are producing it are struggling to pass testing. And so, I mean, that it's something that I've been telling, you know, we obviously deal with Canadian investors and stuff, and they're like, well, the market's going to be compressed in California. So last year I was telling them, you know, it's going to be the exact opposite because there isn't going to be any product available because everybody still has to figure out how to pass the test. So luckily in California, they haven't actually rolled that out yet, or they're not at least enforcing those regulations. So we haven't even really seen it, but you're right, there is a huge supply issue in California currently, and it's just about to get worse. Mm-hmm. And I have friends actually in Sacramento that have stores that have maybe one vendor on their shelf. So it's probably, you know, maybe worse than 20%. It could be like 5% of what they had before.
Right.
So some guys are finding workarounds, and other guys just went out and bought a bunch of product from everybody to put on their shelves until the regulations hit. It just depends on how aggressive they want to be with their license.
Okay.
But it is, I mean, I like the opportunity for us because we obviously have a proven model. We're only used to operating in an environment with testing. So for us, we're excited for the challenge. But I mean, we use a company called 374 Lab to do all of our testing. And 374 went out last year and did they tested about 100 different companies, and they all failed.
Wow.
They were just doing some private testing to really see how bad it was. So that kind of gives you an idea of really how bad it is in California. There's a few players that are already figuring it out, but it is a moving target. You know, in Nevada, testing changes all the time. So our tests are a little more stringent because not only are they testing for pesticides, they're also testing for mold spores and CFU count, but they don't even test for that in California. So realistically, Californians actually have it easier than they do in Nevada. So it's exciting for us that once we finally jump in, that we know how to do it the right way. And then once the guys actually figure out how to even make it work in today's environment in California, it's just going to get worse and more difficult for them. Then they have to adapt. And so when you make these changes, I mean, you're changing the plants and your environment, and it takes 6 months to make these changes. You got to cross your fingers that you're going to pass. And so it's not easy, and it's a huge gamble for the guys that have these, you know, major operations. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens once the state actually starts testing for mold.
Right. Okay, Ray. You know what? I could talk to you for a long time. I'm impressed with your the fact that you guys are sort of leading growers in Nevada, and I'm going to propose to you that we're going to come down with a film crew and shoot your operation, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, please do. We welcome it.
Awesome.
Hope you guys enjoy that.
You bet. Okay, Ray, we're going to leave it there for now. I'm going to come back to you in 3 months' time and see how things are growing.
Awesome. Thank you, James. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Ray. Bye for now.
Have a great day. Bye.